It's a natural temptation for your brand to try to think about its story in almost entirely positive framing. You think about the opportunity of working with a client, you paint this wonderful resolution to what a relationship might look like, the way you can transform their business or the outcome that you can deliver. All of these promises, all of these messaging strategies are nice, they're harmless. In fact, if you look, many companies have tried to use them time and time and time again. The challenge, of course, is that they don't work. For your brand story to create the type of growth and the type of trajectory that you crave in your organization, it must have urgency. It must draw customers in and make them feel like they must listen and they must pay attention. When you think about your brand story, is it a painkiller or is it a vitamin? That may seem like an odd way to think about your brand at first, particularly if you're selling technology or in a complex B2B service, but to some extent, every organization is either a painkiller for their customers or a vitamin. We all know how vitamins work. You take one every day, they're very non-intrusive, and over time, perhaps you become healthier, perhaps you become stronger. The promise of a vitamin is alluring. One pill a day, slight improvement over time, customers love them. The challenge, of course, is that as much as they love them, they also don't buy them. Skip a day with a vitamin, makes no difference. There's no urgency for me to go out to the store and buy a vitamin today. Painkillers, on the other hand, you can't live without. You wake up on any given day and you've got a terrible headache, a splitting pain in your side, you're going to rush to the store and you're going to purchase a painkiller. It's tempting for your brand to be positioned as a vitamin. It's more positive, it's safer, it's easier messaging. The brands, however, that grow most quickly and build the most adoption with their clients are positioned as painkillers. Painkillers are urgent. When you have a headache, when you have a pain, you must address it immediately. Vitamins are anything but. They're nice to haves. When you think about building your brand story, you must think about that broken world at the beginning of your story. It's too often that when you build your narrative, you think about the broken world as a minor inconvenience. The world could be better if this wasn't the case. Great broken worlds are exactly that. They're broken. They suffer from a state of fundamental and damaging disrepair. Your customer must feel that tension at the core of your brand story. That pain that is felt by your customer is where you enter the equation as the painkiller that they so desperately need. Brand stories that are positioned as painkillers help customers attack urgent, pressing needs that they see on a daily basis. When a brand is positioned as a painkiller, it becomes something its customers can't live without. Not only does that mean that they rush to buy it, that they move through the decision process quickly, but it means that when their pain is relieved, they can't help but share the news far and wide of how their problems have been solved by a company just like yours. Brands that are positioned as vitamins are nice to haves. They might make a process better, they might make things easier, might make things simpler, might make things cheaper, but it's companies that position in this exact way who are so often bogged down in their sales processes. Customers don't see the urgency behind making a decision right away. Employees understand the organizational objectives, but are under no pressure to achieve them on any given day. For your brand to reach its story-driven potential, it must be a painkiller to its customers. It might be uncomfortable for you to start thinking about your brand as a painkiller as opposed to a vitamin. We all have a tendency to think about our brands in positive, affirming ways, which is exactly the way that a vitamin makes its promise to customers. Painkiller messaging can be uncomfortable. It requires you to talk precisely about the pain that your customers are experiencing and to expose it in stark and direct terms. Speaking directly to the pain point your customers experience, while uncomfortable, has incredible reward. It highlights challenges that your customers may not even see themselves. It helps them realize that they simply cannot live with the world the way that it is today. And perhaps most importantly, it positions your brand as something they cannot live without. Not a competitor, not a similar product, not the status quo, but an urgent pain that must be addressed and can only be addressed by you today. If you've thoughtfully constructed the broken world within which your story takes place as a brand, this type of painkiller messaging should feel natural. It just requires you to overcome the challenges of using it. Story-driven brands lend themselves to painkiller type messaging. The broken world at the center of the story lays out the pain that you're seeking to solve almost perfectly. Use your story to give your brand the strength to not only address this pain head on, but also the confidence to know that it can guide and empower its customer base to solve that problem and yield the boons of the mended world at the story's conclusion. The broken world at the center of your brand's story is what creates the tension that must be resolved by the narrative. Communicating that broken world requires you to be authentic and honest about the problems your brand actually solves. Most brands would love to tell a story about how they're going to heal or change the world and solve some kind of big global problem. The fact is, most brands don't, and that's okay. Your customers have real pains that drive them and hurt them each and every day. If your brand can authentically promise that it will be able to address the challenges that customers face on a daily basis, even if they feel minor in the global context of how you'd like your brand to be perceived, they can be incredibly powerful in terms of building a connection between you and the customers you seek to serve.